Hello and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast with the science and the screaming to determine the best movie for any given year. I'm your host, Greg. This season, we are tackling 1973, nearly lost to the mists of time, but we are recovering it one movie at a time. Of course, I could not take this journey without my very special friend, my bosom chum, my constant companion, and winner from last week's show, Ryan. How you doing, Ryan?
Bosomed chum, really?
Yeah, bosom chum. From me, that's a big compliment.
You're talking about my chestnuts, my man boobs?
Ryan.
I would never do that, but I will give you a point to make up for it. Ryan, the movie we are talking about tonight is a little feel-good comedy, dramedy question mark, called Paper Moon. And to join us, we have our very own young, hip sensation. No, it's not Mike. It's someone even better. Mike called in fat.
I'm fat, so I burp and fart.
He said because he was so fat, he could not come in because he was burping and farting so much. So we had to bring in T-Money Taylor. How you doing, Taylor?
I'm feeling so young. That's how I'm feeling. Now, is bosom chum that thing when a movie will put in like a breastfeeding scene to draw out the perverts?
It's that thing where two male historical figures are such good friends that they live with each other for 40 years and sleep in the same bed because they're just like, we are buddies, two confirmed bachelors.
Just two bachelors loving being guys, being dudes.
But the fact that me, you, and Mike all sleep in the same bed with the same pajamas, that's different. Because there's three of us and it's not two.
And because, frankly, we don't like each other that much.
Right.
If we could afford more than one bed, I think that we would all sleep in our own bed. And Mike spends half the night on the toilet anyway, so it's really just the two of us there. So as I mentioned, we are doing 1973's Paper Moon. Now, 1973 is back before even the Graybeards on the show were born, Ryan. So do you have any history with it? Had you seen the movie before this viewing?
Believe it or not, Greg, I had not seen this movie before. I had heard of it, was a fan of this director. I was in the past a fan of this director, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
Peter Bogdanovich?
Bogdanovich.
But,
it had always been on my radar. I always wanted to see it because Academy Award winner, you know how much we all love the Oscars here.
It has enemy of the show, Ryan O'Neal.
Has enemy of the show, Barry Lyndon himself. And, famously father and daughter acting together. I always wanted to see it, and now finally did.
Now you have.
So thank you, Movie of the Year.
I love what your tone of voice and face are telling me about your inner thoughts. Taylor, had you ever heard of this movie? Had you ever seen it before? What's your personal history with this movie?
I did find out as I was watching it that it is not Paper Towns, and it is also not Moonrise Kingdom. So it was neither of those movies, which was my first impression when I heard the title. But I did realize as I was watching it, this is the movie that I've seen some of my friends on Letterboxd review and say, this is nice, and such things. That was my entire experience with it, and for the most part, I don't think that I've ever actually seen another Bogdanovich picture. So this was my exposure to him, and I was like, "Great! I get to knock another one of these old bastards off."
My own personal history with it is this is from like my parents' "they don't make them like this anymore" collection, and they would put it on occasionally when I was a kid, and I think because it was black and white, and I knew that it had come out before I was born, I legit thought this movie was like from the 40s.
This goes under the Godfather category of this is an old movie about even older movies.
Yes, yeah. And when you are like a hip, fresh 80s kid, you know, and you've got that boombox on the shoulder and you're skateboarding everywhere.
I'm sorry, Greg, did you wear like rollerblades on top of a skateboard everywhere you went?
I would do that. But you know what I would never wear, Ryan? British Knights.
No.
because the BK could stand for blood killers, and I was afraid somebody would come to my neighborhood and see me come to the mean Rossmore streets.
You'd always wear equal blue and red, so
just in case, cover your bets. Cover your bets. I'm wearing a red shirt and blue jeans right now, just in case. Hey, everybody. If there's going to be a rumble, I just snap to the music and I back away into the shadows. But so, yeah, I watched this movie a few times when I was a kid, and I loved it, and I was just like, man, this is so great. And I have to say, watching it this time, I just kept thinking, like, yo, this is your daughter? Like, why'd you do this? Why would you? And like then being like, and I'm just gonna check in with the brain box here and just see, like, I'm gonna run Tatum O'Neal, the young actress in this, through the old, and like and it's like she just recently almost died of an overdose. Her life has been very, very difficult, and so there's this like kind of like the movie is very nice and it's kind of redemptive of these ne'er-do-well characters. And then the reality is kind of like bleak.
I think, though, that this was when Ryan O'Neal had Tatum, that was the first generation that there was children. So we had no idea that like stuff could happen like that, you know?
Not that we're going to play this card a lot, but Ryan is a dad.
Right.
And so as the resident dad on the show, he knows things about like dad history. Like if anything about grilling comes up, we look right to Ryan.
Yeah, I'm here for that.
Lawn mowing. The one thing I've discovered, Ryan, as a non-dad, but as just a middle-aged gentleman with no kids who lingers, is that dad jokes are just something you do when you used to be kind of clever, but now you're 42 and you've lost like 8 miles on your 8 miles per hour on your fastball, and so you're just like, oh, hi, hungry. I'm a random stranger approaching you.
I also have lost 8 Mile on DVD, so I let somebody borrow it, and I need it back.
I lost it from my memory because I got hit in the head by one of those steel pipes.
Fucking Detroit is a crazy place. Greg, you bring up an interesting point, though. I do want the record to show that a dad joke, we've changed the definition, and I wanted to go back. A dad joke is like, hi, Taylor, hi, hungry, I'm Taylor. That's a dad joke because it's the same fucking shit you use all the time. It's not just any corny joke that you've made up on the spot.
Yeah.
You
Some
can't just
jokes
declare
can just be bad.
Right.
Yeah.
But a dad joke is specifically one that you use constantly because that's all you have in your life because you're a pathetic piece of shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're trying to you're barely keeping it together, right? And you're like, I can't lay on the kid like that. I have seen the bleak face of life. And so I have to be like, right? And it's like, but all I can do is kind of go to the book of dad jokes.
Right.
To do that. Well, on that note, let's skadoosh our way right in to talking about Paper Moon. Paper Moon is a fun little romp about a shady guy and his daughter, flawlessly played by a shady guy, Ryan O'Neal, and his real-life 10-year-old daughter, Tatum O'Neal, with whom he has always had a strained relationship. We're going to spend most of the show getting into the whys and the no, really whys and the man, but really like whys of this decision, but let's somehow put this aside for now. The movie itself follows a con man and his maybe probably daughter as they con their way across the Midwest, which is basically destroyed and depopulated by a sad-sounding thing called the Depression. Wah, wah. Shot in black and white and an obvious love letter to old-timey stories, Paper Moon is constantly walking the line between charming and bleak. Gentlemen, I ask you this. Why did director Peter Bogdanovich feel that a novel that takes place in the 30s needed to be a movie in 1973? Did he see a connection between 1973 and the Great Depression? Do we see that connection?
I mean, I would say, first of all, that, like, as a young man in 2023, the 1900s are all the same. Like, it's just, it's
who
like,
who can even say?
It's like hippies on ships, right? Like, and they're all going to get gold in California in them bar hills.
They hit the Titanic.
Then they hit the Titanic, and then there's oil everywhere. Thank you, Chevron.
And there's enough room on the door for everybody.
So come on, Kate Winslet, scoot over.
Yeah.
Titanic came out in 1997, so that's why that's included. But no, I think that we've talked about this a lot throughout the season, and this is the things that we think are just always going to be there. These like institutions or maybe not laws, but just things that we take for granted not being there anymore.
Yes.
These
and you mean like in the 30s with like the whole industries disappearing?
I'm talking about both, baby.
Yeah.
I'm talking about both.
And then the 70s with like Watergate,
and like
Vietnam lingering.
Right. The just like going to war, and the war that isn't like what our parents fought, like heroic and but just like all the stuff that we took for granted about how awesome the country was, just completely evaporating before our eyes. And then like, so who do we look up to? Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio? I think that's what both sort of eras are showing together.
That we're suddenly like leaderless and rudderless.
Exactly.
Taylor, do you think that there's something about the Depression and the 70s that go together?
I think that there's a little bit that goes together, like in the way that it sort of, history kind of rhymes a little bit. But I also think there's not a not insignificant portion of it that's just like, I think Bogdanovich likes the movies and the styling of that old like look. Like his like mentor was Orson Welles or whatever. So I think it's like, it's not a big stretch to be like, he wanted it to be in black and white and set in the 30s because that's when like, that's what he thinks of when he thinks of like Orson Welles and his buddy. He's like, man, movies sure were great when they were like that, don't you think? Like, I think it's the same way that like when people now are making movies that like are shot on like kind of grainy, warm film, because they're like, I want it to look like Taxi Driver or whatever. Like I think that is also a part of it, is like the filmmaking of it all is.
Are you calling out Joker, Taylor?
I haven't seen Joker, but yes, fuck Joker.
What?
I'm the Joker.
Startling
baby.
admission.
I'm the Joker, baby.
How do you come on a podcast devoted to film with a capital PH as in D and not have seen the Joker? That is ridiculous to me. Excuse me, Joker. Shit, I blew it.
The Joker.
I always put the article.
Hey,
my God.
Here's some advice. Drop the.
I thought you were going to say drop fucking dead. What if it was a Joker?
Just a Joker, right? The indefinite article. I love that. Man, aren't we all a Joker? That's the point of the movie. Good job, Brian.
I do think there's a lot to what Taylor said, and I don't know how...
That's a point for Taylor, then.
Shit, I think that Taylor's answer was stupid.
Oh.
But yeah, I do think that Bogdanovich is sort of a film fan first, and watching this movie, this is something that has come up a lot recently for me by way of Karina Longworth, who just did a very huge podcast about Bogdanovich's partner at the time, Polly Platt.
And this is You Must Remember This.
Yes.
And we have to say, we mentioned her sometimes. Her podcast is amazing.
Second best podcast about movies.
And like, honestly, when I say I know things about Hollywood, it's either because I've read the first couple chapters of this book you told me to read, or because I heard her say them on her podcast. So we do have to give a major shout out to her. She's amazing.
Bogdanovich left his wife, Polly Platt, who was the production designer and maybe the also everything else for his first 4 movies, I want to say, which includes The Last Picture Show, which is his other, like, super heralded classic.
Biggie.
And he left her for Sybil Shepherd, who then starred in a bunch of his movies. And his career went kaput. Like, the thing that he's known for most after his first 4 movies is playing Tony Soprano's Shrink's Shrink.
Yeah.
So it's just, he was this like wonderkind, and now he's gone. And I think a lot of people have been credited for this quote, but watching Paper Moon brought all of this back for me by saying that there is a difference between having talent and what is the quote again? It's like having talent and having taste.
Ah, nice. Yeah.
And watching this movie, I think that Peter Bogdanovich is probably the most famous director to have taste.
To have really good taste.
To have a really good taste. And watching so much of these shots, I think that this is an incredibly gorgeous movie. But I think it's missing so much of that stuff that, and I don't think that you have to, like, necessarily, like, be the characters that you're making movies about, like, David Fincher is
like, for instance, if the characters are father and daughter, you wouldn't necessarily, it doesn't follow there that you would have an acting pair that's a father and a daughter. You could bring in 2 different professionals from 2 different families, for instance.
Some people would even say that's like a bad idea, potentially. Like from just a psychiatric point of view. Maybe not good.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I hope we get a chance to rap about that. It's just a couple three gentlemen talking about that.
But yeah, I that's what the sort of the movie looks great, but I think that the decisions were made, like Taylor was saying, for aesthetic reasons.
Yes.
Alone.
Yes.
Not alone, mostly.
Yeah. That was driving the ship. Like, that's how decisions were made. That's how shots were put together, and that ultimately what we're left with maybe is like, or I don't know. Do you think that negatively affects the whole, Taylor? That like it's individually there are strong moments, but they don't cohere.
I don't think that it necessarily negatively affects the whole, but I think that it shines. I think that it shines through that. Like, if you asked me what the overarching plot of this movie is, I couldn't tell you, but I feel warmly about it because I think like sort of to what Ryan was saying, like moment to moment, I think he's got a very good idea of what he wants to be on screen and what the emotions he wants to evoke with that. But he is doing it in such a way, like he's doing these long shots because he thinks that long takes are good. Like he's, framing things.
He ruined a lot of people's lives with those long shots, dude.
Yes.
Those long shots, including his own. Like,
it's like, I think all of that goes into like, yes, it does make compelling moment to moment. And I could pick out specific scenes. It doesn't all come together in necessarily a way that is like traditionally good. It doesn't negatively impact it, but I see how like if you don't have maybe the voice behind you that is reining you in and helping you out with those pieces, if you let that take you, then you're going to make something that's like unintelligible and is bad.
I think that, I just think that he's such a film school kid, and I think that there's so much stuff in here that is so interesting that I want to teach about, or I guess talk about. Like, we can talk about it.
And he's part of this generation of the film school kids that were just making it, right? Because we think of like George Lucas, and
he's in this weird place where he like that brat pack, something that rhymes with rat. I'm not sure what word though. Of Lucas, Spielberg, Scorsese, De Palma, Schrader, all of those guys, he broke out slightly before them.
Okay.
And so therefore, I don't know if he ever really totally fit in. Coppola also in there. Coppola would be like the major granddaddy.
But
he
had like big movies by the time they came around.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And everybody knew him. He was a star. He guest hosted The Tonight Show. Like,
whoa.
He had a look. Like, he always wore those
yes, those glasses.
Tinted glasses and the little, like, what do you call that thing that Fred from Scooby-Doo wears? Like the little scarf.
Oh, like the ascot?
Yeah, he always,
very big in 73. Oh my God, the neckerchief or the ascot was so huge in 73.
And so he became like his own celebrity that sort of made movies on the side, you know?
Yeah.
And there's something that leaves me cold about it. I have not gone back and watched The Last Picture Show since Karina ruined all of this stuff for me. I'm nervous to because of how much I love that movie. But just to like sort of bring into picture the kind of thing that he does and kind of how film schooly it is, I want to talk about the scene where Ryan O'Neal buys Addie a ticket for the train.
Okay.
Casper Van Dien, what's his name? Moses.
Moses.
Her father goes up and buys. This is in the beginning of the movie. He's going to send her back to her family. And behind him, and the whole movie is deep focus. Not a single thing in this movie's background is blurry at all, which means everything in the foreground, everything in the background is just as in focus as it is in the foreground. Ooh. Very purposeful. Behind Moses, when he's buying the ticket, you can see Addie standing there, just looking off in the distance, very sad. Then when it cuts to the reverse shot, there's the ticket taker, and far in the distance of the ticket taker, you see two kids playing. And you see the two different types of childhoods that were available, could have been available. And he loves this, like, sort of rhyming thing that Taylor was talking about like, here's how things could have been maybe outside of the Depression, or if Addie had a different
and
mom.
Especially for it to be at a train station.
Which,
like,
is going, taking you on your path or your journey. This is the shit that you can tell gives Bogdanovich boners all day long. But does it give you Addie stuff?
Does it give you heart boners?
Yes. Heart boners.
I think this is like, he's part of that first generation of guys who like read the books that the first people who were making like cinema movies wrote. if that makes sense. Like this is the first era of people who like watched like Orson Welles and Citizen Kane and like all of like the 30s and 40s, like, and we're going to dissect these and figure out what makes these goods, and now those are the laws. And then and then like took all of those pieces and is making movies that way. And it's like, well, if you just simply do long takes, if you like juxtapose frames in this certain way, that's cinema. And so you can definitely see all of those pieces like floating around. And yeah, he like loves that. He does not want a single scene to go by or a single shot to go by without him doing one of those things.
Exactly. And do you see, like, the way that Taylor describes it is that in America, people like, forgot his name, Bogdanovich are coming out, and the way that Taylor describes it, they sound like scientists. Yeah. Where, like, if you talk about Godard and Truffaut right before that, they sound like poets. They're doing the same thing. They're doing the same studying of Wells and everybody before that. They know the movies backward and forward, but they sound like poets. They are remixing what they've learned to create new and art, and he feels like a
like almost like a large language model, like that he like takes in all these
fucked up, but yeah,
takes in all these films that he's seen, and he's like, most likely the next shot would be this one, and then just produces that, but it doesn't have that same heart because it hasn't like passed through a human soul.
Right, and yeah, like that's why it takes place in the past. It almost gives him an excuse, like this. I'm gonna make a movie that takes place in the past so I can do stuff that happened in the past.
Before we close this segment, I just couldn't help but point out that we have already had a movie that is full of witty dialogue, shot in an old style, focused on con men, and takes place in 1973. Like, there did feel like there was like something just in the water, right? Like, I mean, how is this the same as this thing, and how is it different? How does it deliver the same experiences?
Now, like, you know, boilerplate excuses of like we could go through every year and see if they had all of these, you know, longing for the past and blah blah blah. But I think that I think you're exactly right that like there was this deep need of like, man, didn't it used to be better than now?
Yeah.
What, like, even in the Great Depression, wasn't there something still so wholesome about this country and about the people, you know? And
it reminds me of Grapes of Wrath, right? That Steinbeck's position in Grapes of Wrath is that the Depression caused everybody to pull together, and so that there was like a beautiful. And I wonder if 73 and everything falling apart, I wonder if that's the beginning of America being like, we don't pull together anymore.
Right.
That's not a thing that happens. It's every man for himself, including within families. A father and a daughter will have like only their acrimonious relationship drawing them together, not even like love or mutual support or anything like that. It's the fact that they need each other for the con, and they're like kind of stuck together.
And is it that we don't pull together anymore, or is it artists of all spraying to all fields saying we never did, and now it's time for art to reflect that?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how rosy a recollection of the Depression it is that it brought everybody together. A lot of times financial desperation doesn't bring everybody together, and sometimes it brings certain groups together only in opposition to other groups. But The Sting, certainly a cheerier, more fun movie, like throughout, right? Maybe a better feeling, a cleaner finish. What is it? There's something about The Sting that's more purely enjoyable, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't even know which one's better. I know that we shit on The Sting more, but that was sort of like with our noses pointed upward podcast voices. And I like Paper Moon. I liked it a lot. I just have this like Bogdanovich stink on me, and I was expecting a lot more or something different. I don't know. I want to hash that out tonight. But both of them are very, very similar, very, very different movies.
Yeah. And yet, touching on all the same points, right? Maybe that goes to underscore the thing we always say on this show, which is that movies can be so many different things, that even if they have like 8 things that are similar, they can be so different.
Right.
When we come back, let's get trivial.
Trivia.
It is time for trivia. I will read the whole question. Please wait until I have finished. And then ring in by saying your name. I will call on you. My answers are final, even if they are provably false. First question. This movie had a short-lived spin-off TV show in 1974 starring what movie of the year star we have never lost contact with?
Taylor.
Jodie Foster.
Taylor.
T-Money. There for 1 year, there was a TV show based on this. The movie, I feel like movies and TV were like seeding each other back and forth at this time. Maybe that still happens, but with the Continental coming to Peacock.
Starring Mel Gibson, your favorite actor?
Dude. Oh, man.
Guys, John Wick, hot as ever. Let's make a TV spinoff. Who are we going to get to star?
Mel Gibby.
Let's get Mel Gibson on the phone.
Is he really in the...
He is the star.
This is the first time I've heard of this. That's so funny to me.
Dude, the country is soft reintroducing mainstream anti-Semitism. Just like, well, let's bring back the anti-Semitic stars.
The second season is supposed to star Danny Masterson, so...
Danny Masterson, Bud. What a great story, right? So nice to finally see somebody get some modicum of punishment for what they've done. All right, question the second. What was in the cigarettes that young Tatum O'Neal smokes throughout the movie?
Taylor.
Ryan.
Was it lettuce?
It was lettuce. I better give you a point.
Ryan.
What was her reaction to these cigarettes? Taylor.
She thought they were dank.
She's like, man, this is that wacky lettuce. She did not.
Ryan.
She did not think they were dank. Ryan.
Was it full on barf?
Yeah, they made her really sick. Just one of the many ways in which they were like, we found a workaround. And the only one who has to suffer is the small child.
She probably would have thrown up more if it was tobacco.
Yeah, probably. They should just let her smoke pot. When Tatum O'Neal won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, she beat what fellow child actress?
Oh. Ryan. Was it Linda Blair?
It was Linda Blair. I really have to remember that I've got to give you your points. You get it right, and I'm just like, moving on. Taylor's looking cute. There's a point for T-Money.
Taylor.
All right. Is Tatum O'Neal a supporting actress in this movie? Taylor.
No, she's the fucking lead. She's the star. She's the entire movie.
Taylor.
I think that there's straight up, like, this goes with children and senior citizens. There's a height requirement for lead actress. Like, and if you're too short, you have to go supporting.
Who famously said she was not a supporting actress in this movie?
Ryan. Tatum O'Neal?
Tatum O'Neal did not say it. Taylor?
Was it Madeline Kahn?
Yeah, Madeline Kahn was like, I was the...
I would like that Oscar,
I was the
please.
supporting actress. Also, Peter Bogdanovich was like,
Wait, is that why this is called a Kahn movie? Because Madeline Kahn did it?
What did director Peter Bogdanovich think of working with the 10-year-old O'Neal?
Ryan.
I heard Ryan first.
I watched an interview from like 10 years ago today, and he seems to have softened his case, but I think he fucking hated it, Greg.
Yeah, he said it was the most miserable experience of his life.
I think there were other people who hated it more.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it just underscores what a terrible idea it was. Apparently, her very natural seeming performance was him just like
rating.
Yeah, and just being like, nope, this is exactly what I want, do it again. Nope, this is exactly what I want, do it again. And so he was miserable from doing that. But imagine being her, like having to do the same thing 50 times. And then through movie magic, it just becomes this like very naturalistic performance. The name of the book this movie is based on is Addie Pray. Why was it changed?
Taylor.
Because
they thought it sounded better?
Yes, because Bogdanovich was like, I don't like the title of this movie.
Ryan. He listened to songs to get into the mood for like rewriting the script, and one of the songs is like, we're sitting on a paper moon. He was like, hell yeah, let's call it that.
What titan of film reportedly told director Peter Bogdanovich that the title Paper Moon was so good that he should just release the title and forget about the picture?
Taylor. I so very badly want to say the joke answer of Justin Timberlake from the Social Network, but I believe it is Orson Welles.
It was Orson Welles. Follow-up question, is Paper Moon such a good title that they could just release it and not the picture?
Taylor.
Taylor?
No. That's
No.
silly. You simply have to have a movie.
People don't want to go sit in the theater just to see the title.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna
You
save a
can't pay
ton
money
on
for that.
you're gonna save a ton on production costs, but like your next movie's gonna flop because people are not gonna trust that you're gonna have a
Yeah.
movie at all.
You do the title card, Paper Moon, and
Ta-da!
then they go, okay, tell your friends this was the best movie you ever saw, and that this is an original idea that we just came up with.
At the end, Jim Caviezel comes on and says, "Look, a lot of people need to see Paper Moon."
Why don't you buy tickets for the next group who need to find out what's happening to these kids? They're being brought out on long cons by people who are probably their fathers, even though they're not fit to be. What shot took 2 days and 39 takes to get correct?
Ryan. That's the oneer of the car ride where she's like, "Well, we could go get more Bibles.
Yeah.
We could go do that shit again."
They kept getting to town, and if you, it's a one shot. So if you mess it up, or if the timing is just off,
And like, I understand
You
she's
can't
10.
get to town.
Ryan.
She's 10. She's a first-time actress. Hey, Peter, Petey Bog, find a longer road, you dipshit.
yes, yeah, or you can't do the one shot with the kid. Like you wanted that so bad so that you could say you had this long
Yeah.
oneer with just a child. Like that's weird. That's not a good thing anyway. It doesn't sound good. According to Vivian Kubrick, what was Ryan O'Neal's reaction to hearing his precious daughter and not him had been nominated for an Oscar?
Oh boy,
Taylor.
not.
Taylor.
Is this the part where he did some light child abuse?
He
He dabbled.
He
yes.
dabbled. He dipped his toe into the world of one of the worst things you can do to your child.
Vivian Kubrick's exact wording were, he socked her. So he punched his daughter.
It sounds so much nicer when you say socked, doesn't it?
Socked her. Yeah. But yeah, that was his reaction.
His other go-to was to fuck one of her friends.
Oh my god. This happened on the set of what movie of the year movie?
Ryan. Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon. So she went to go tell him in person, hoping that it would like not be as bad,
Ryan.
which I guess was a miscalculation when you are the world's biggest piece of shit, Ryan O'Neal.
Thank you.
Is Ryan O'Neal a reverse method actor where he only plays pieces of shit because he is naturally a huge piece of shit? Ryan.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that just is like, okay, let's see. I'm obviously abusive and I have anger issues and I'm awful. I'll just take all the parts that are like that. Barry Lyndon? I mean, what's ironic about the fact that he socked his daughter on the set of Barry Lyndon?
Also, I have some things to say about Ryan O'Neal, but I'll save that for
The Ryan
non-trivia
O'Neal segment?
segments. Yeah.
It's because he straight up fights his kid in Barry Lyndon. Barry Lyndon and his son get into
he
or
whips his
stepson
ass.
get into an absolute scrap. Are the stories around the movies of 1973 making this season kind of a drag?
Taylor. No. I'm having fun with the podcast.
You know what?
Taylor.
Hard to argue.
I was on the edge of my seat waiting for that answer.
Hard to argue with that.
What I'm like, sure, but like, are we surprised at all? You know, like
No.
it's the past. The past. It's just so horrifying. It's
And-
all scary.
I saw a show on HBO called The Idol, and I have to tell you, the entertainment industry is very suspect and very abusive, and I understand that now from watching the HBO show The Idol, because they only gave me 5 episodes and then canceled unceremoniously, not caring about my own personal health. What time? Oh no, I already did that one. Is what would happen if the real moon were paper?
Taylor.
Ryan.
Taylor,
The tides would be fucked, my man.
don't you think?
Taylor.
Like naval travel would be untenable.
Yeah, right. That's to me. That's a non-starter. We can't even
Yeah.
begin to go down that road.
Ryan.
Ryan,
Would you eat it?
hang on. Put a pin in that, buddy.
Sorry.
Put a pin. Act like that's the moon and put a pin in it. If the moon were made of ribs, would you eat it?
Ryan. I would.
Wrong. Thank you for just answering the dang question. Ryan, now we can move on. If the moon were made of ribs, would I eat it? Taylor?
No, it's simply too big.
Yeah, right. I like ribs, but I don't think I'd want to eat the entire moon made of ribs.
Yeah.
Can we tell the people that aren't?
If you don't eat the whole thing within like a full day, then you have to pay for it, and that's going to be too expensive.
Can we tell the people who are not here in the studio audience, the listeners at home, that Taylor is ringing in and then pulling out a whiteboard and like doing a bunch of math before he answers these questions?
Well, he's like Taylor's a spelling bee kid,
right?
So after he gets it, he's like does their little workshop. Let's see if paper were made of ribs, would you eat it?
Taylor, paper were made of ribs.
Taylor.
I eat paper when it's paper, so yeah, I would eat paper if it was ribs.
I was just gonna ask if any of you guys were one of those weird kids, but Taylor is one of those weird adults.
Just sits there housing paper.
Yeah,
another paper.
The different colors give it different tastes.
And last question: Paper Moon or Paper Mario?
Ryan.
Taylor.
Ryan.
You know that, and this sucks to announce onto a podcast because the emails that we're going to get, but RPG is the worst form of video game.
Okay.
You stupid fucking
okay.
You piece of shit.
Paper Mario is the single best RPG, along with Earthbound, the single two best RPGs that have ever been created.
Well, you gotta pull it up there, big guy. Very well done. Well, that is the end of trivia. From now on, everything you hear on this show will be of utmost importance. Child actors can be rough. Their performances can be awkward, and their characters shallow. Where does Oscar winner Tatum O'Neal and her character of Abby Prey fit into this not-so-grand Hollywood tradition? And then also, I want to segue from talking about that to the sort of there's the dynamics of the child star, and then in this particular one, the family dynamics in addition to it. So first, just focusing on her, the performance. What'd you think, Taylor?
I thought she was so fucking good. Like, she's just, I mean, as we mentioned, like the quote unquote effortlessness of the performance, like it doesn't feel artificial the way that, like, let's be honest, pretty much every child actor does. Like, you can see them
with
acting.
With rare exception, right? Like
yes.
Haley Joel Osment.
I was just gonna say AI.
Sense. Yeah, like I mean, there's like a handful of child actors and a handful of movies. More often, you get like, not to pick on this poor kid, but the kid from like Phantom Menace, who's just
Jake
like,
Lloyd, yeah,
who just like has no concept of what he's even really supposed to do, you know?
Yeah, it never feels like this is a character that's on the screen. It's like, this is a kid who's like being a kid that I could pick up off the street right now. Like, it's just like, you can't
Taylor.
do much
Yeah,
with
let's
it.
let's choose our words better.
Oh, what?
Let
You
me
think I
phrase
can't
it.
pick up a small child? I am physically capable. I have passed my physical fitness test. But yeah, I think like generally you can tell like a kid is acting, and she in this movie, it feels like this is a little stinker from the Depression era who's going around conning people. Like she is Danny Ocean. Like, whereas every other child actor is like Danny Ocean's shitty nephew, who's like the little brother from the Lizzie McGuire movie. Like, that's
Hey, I'm Billy Bay.
yeah, I'm Billy the Bay. But yeah, I think she's incredible. It is a bummer knowing the behind the scenes of that performance, and knowing like, oh, this was probably hell on her. This was not a good situation for her to be in. But the performance, great, absolutely deserving of that Oscar. Linda Blair can fuck off.
Well, don't ever compliment one woman without insulting another one.
Yes.
That is what we have to learn. I thought a lot about Mary Badham, which is crazy that that's her name. That's crazy that that's her name, because at the end of the movie, the only movie as far as I know that she starred in, Scout dresses like a piece of ham and does bad things.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
Isn't that funny? But
Her costume is a ham.
there's a lot of Scout here. It's if you just get to squint at the screen, which you don't want to because you want everything to have that deep focus. This is one of the greatest performances I've ever seen, child or otherwise.
Yeah.
And the naturalness that comes here, you would just think that Tatum O'Neal would go on to have one of the greatest careers of all time if she didn't have not just a psychopath dad that, probably ruined her life, but also in part because she acts fucking circles around him. Addie is instantly a better con man than her quote-unquote father in this movie, and instantly a better actor than her real-life counterpart. That could not have sat well with a fucking potato-headed, red-faced Irish dude like Ryan O'Neal. I'm sure that got him all Irished up about that.
And he clearly can tell that he is locked in like a contest of acting with his daughter. And I think you can see that he knows he's losing in the movie, and that's causing him to even dial it up a little bit extra. I think he delivers a great performance as well, but like you said, it's against one of the greatest of all time, and I think that made it so much worse for him that he just knew, like, it doesn't have to be a competition, but I'm making it a competition, and I'm losing.
I don't think he does. I think he sticks out like a sore thumb in this movie. I think
you think he sucks in this?
Yes, I think he stands out.
I can never tell with him because he's always supposed to be such a loser piece of shit in the movies that he's in, and so it's like, I mean, that reads.
I
also think that everyone else comes off like they're supposed to be from this time in the same movie, and he just can't stop being like this 1970s surface level heartthrob. Like I'd rather be Burt Reynolds, and like sort of.
Honey, you're not Burt. Oh, baby, no wonder you're so angry all the time.
I disagree though. I think that he very effectively plays like a 1930s con man who's just kind of bumbling around and like, well, hello there. I've got some Bibles to sell. Yeah, it'd be great if you gave me $10 or whatever. Like I feel like he very effectively is playing that part. It's just that like in comparison to like Tatum, he's not as good because she's so much better. But yeah, I think it's definitely like he's giving 110% because like it's like he's Vegeta and she's Goku, and like he's in any other situation he'd be so good, but like you've got Goku that you're up against and you're just never gonna catch up.
Yeah, but anybody who orders fajitas is like a star at the place, so I think that works out. Okay, so let's kind of like pivot to what we've already been talking about a little bit, which is like, was this worth it? And I feel like so often we are saying that about movies. Like, this movie is built with trauma and with family like drama to make it rhyme.
Drama?
Is it? I don't know. Like, are we able? Does that hang over the movie the entire time you're watching it?
No, not the entire time you're watching it. When the entire time you're podcasting about it, kind of.
Yeah.
Right? But the entire time you're watching it, no. Because the movie does, most of the time, do a good job of sweeping you away. But it is really hard to talk about the movie and not bring it up. It's the most famous director to child actor story in Hollywood history is probably the Charlie Chaplin and the kid story. And I don't even know if this is a true story or not, but it's the one where the kid just won't cry. So he goes to the kid and he says, hey, I just gave you this puppy, and hands him a puppy, and then takes the puppy away and says, I'm now going to go kill this puppy. And the kid starts bawling, and he's like, roll the cameras. That to me seems so much more quaint now compared to what I've heard about this set of Paper Moon, where the day of the fucking car, like when they were shooting that oneer, like the things that Ryan O'Neal was screaming about his own, not just a child actress, but his own daughter.
Yeah.
Like, if this cunt doesn't get it right this next time, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, screaming.
Oof.
Like, it's hard to just bring all that together in your head.
Yeah, and we always say that making this podcast, like, we have fun and it makes us enjoy movies more, but I do feel like sometimes a story like this, maybe it is because of the podcast, it just feels like you just keep thinking about how it feels almost wrong to, like, ignore all of that and just pay attention to this very charming movie that is actually about these two people who are rough around the edges, finding each other and loving each other, and what the people that are portraying that are not enjoying that same success. I feel like it double underlines just how fake movies are.
Right.
Yeah. It's every moment that we're doing this podcast, I'm liking this movie less.
Which is, I feel like, rare.
Yeah, it's most of the time it makes me I feel so much more positive and, like, warm towards the movies that we discuss because I have such a deeper appreciation. But this is a movie, and I think this maybe goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about, like, Bogdanovich and, like, the sort of his aesthetic that he's going for is, like, it feels all aesthetic, but then every bit that I dig deeper, I'm like, this is, like, bad underneath the surface. Like, this is rotten in some way. Like, this is a toxic thing that has a candy coating that I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's how it feels a little bit. And so then I come around to the question again of, like, why did they make this choice? Like, why is this just a stunt casting? Is it so that we, the viewer, will be like, well, I know that they're actually father and daughter, so now I believe the characters are? Because the movie, we don't know that he's actually her father, but we feel like knowing that the actor and actress are related to each other, that maybe makes that more possible.
P.D. Bogbog has gone out of his way to make sure that there is no question
that the characters are father and
it's
daughter.
For sure his daughter. It's absolutely his daughter. Says it in hundreds of interviews.
But does the text of the film say that definitively?
To me, and again, definitively no. But to me, he's such a piece of shit that the second he says, "I'm not your father,"
and then you see his face. Yeah, I do have to say, I guess I feel like Ryan O'Neal's character Mose is at least a good enough of a con man to pull off most lies, but when he says, "I'm not your father" to her, his face is just like, yeah, I am. I totally am, and I know that I am. And she always knows from that point forward.
Also, the point of, like, his character knows that he can only go after the stupidest people possible. If he ever, he makes a point of never challenging
the
himself.
most desperate. Like, they're not. They might naturally be stupid, but they're also. He's going after people in mourning, and, like, using that as the lever against them.
Or late afternoon, at some point. But
depends on how late he sleeps in.
And Addie is, like, his first challenge, right?
Yeah.
And she sees through it right away. She's like, "All right, bud, you're not my father."
And you're also not good at being a con man. And I could really take your game to the next level. I could also maybe bring an Oscar into the family, but you don't seem to be very excited about either of those prospects.
I did look up after the movie how much $24 in the Depression was.
Okay.
It is, gang, $420.
Shit. 420, 69.
She got that rich lady for 420. Blaze it.
Very nice. 69. When we come back, we are going to talk about the Pro Stars. Rushmore. Imagine if those four presidents had ever been able to come together and really all work on the same team. That would be so impressive, I imagine, unless they had to do anything for themselves, and then they probably couldn't get much of anything done. But you know who could? Sports stars.
Athletes.
That's who. Ryan, when we were growing up in the 90s, there was a group of athletes who were more than just athletes. They were cartoons. Representing the best that their sports had to offer, which we were blessed to have all the greatest athletes in the time that we were alive.
Never before, never after, just when we were kids.
Yes, and they were called the Pro Stars, and I think they were, like, coming together to fight crime.
Yeah, minor crimes, major crimes, whatever crimes you had.
Yeah, probably, like, there was an episode where they fought against drugs, pollution. I bet they tried to take it, if not down to zero, then a low number at least.
Drugs, the drugs that pollution causes, the pollution that drugs cause.
Yes. And on this team, there's Wayne Gretzky, consummate hockey star,
He covers hockey.
a personality plus. And then Bo Jackson.
Yes, he covered baseball and
That's
football.
2 sports right there. That's incredibly impressive. Michael Jordan.
Covered basketball and baseball.
Yeah, but like covered basketball, and then was like, I also played baseball.
Yeah.
And then who was the last one? Joe Montana.
Just the 3.
Just those 3.
We're only doing 3.
Wow. Okay. Well, then our mountain will only have 3. So we are going to pick the best sports stars and kind of like the most famous sports stars of 73, right?
I think it'd be weird to suggest a non-famous athlete for the 1973 Pro Stars.
Yeah, right. So let's keep them famous, shall we? 73 sports were like still like a portion of the pop culture landscape, not like most of the pop culture landscape, and so these celebs might not be as big.
If you watch sports on like YouTube from 1973, you'll see some of the worst like chyrons.
Yes.
On the blurriest of TV cameras.
Half the athletes are late for the game because they were at their day job. They're like coming in, taking off their tie. Hang on, here I come.
The day job
Sorry.
was cigarette testing.
Right.
You just cannot get a good cigarette testing job anymore. Taylor, you are our guest, and as such, I would like you to recommend the first person to put on our Pro Stars mountain.
All right, so listen, I'm going at this from the concept that it is 1973, and we are putting people on this show based on the fact that it is 1973. So, in 1973, I simply cannot believe that it would not be O.J. Simpson.
Okay, right. A little bit of a sticky wicket here.
It's listen, we've talked about it. Like sometimes it was the past, and that kind of is a bummer around it. But if I'm putting my 1973 goggles on,
yes,
O.J. Simpson, right?
You don't know a ton about
innocent man who never did anything wrong.
Well, in 73 he was, right?
Taylor, you don't know a ton about sports, so you're just taking a stab in the dark here.
Pretty, yeah.
Ooh.
But I've got my gloves on.
This was second phase OJ, so that he's in the pros now. He's already completely knifed his way through the college game, and now he's cutting it up in the pros. Also, I feel like OJ's so triggering for white people. Not that he shouldn't be. He's probably guilty, everybody, right? Probably guilty. But it works up white people in kind of a delightful way. I'm starting to pick up on that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, get people going, because if you just drop that grenade in a group of boomers and just let them go, you get to tell people, or you get to see what kind of people are.
So, but I am going to put him on the maybe pile.
Oh, shit.
That seems fair.
I thought he was going to run for fighting crime all day.
So we will see. I mean, he can get in the headspace, right? He wrote that book where he imagined if he had done it, if I did it, right?
Yeah.
So he could get in the headspace of the bad guy.
For sure.
Yeah.
Are we? I thought that we were at this point considering that maybe he did not do it. And it was a cover-up for his son.
Oh, really? That's
Have we not jumped on this bandwagon
That's
yet?
very evolved. I have to say, in the time that when the trial was actually going on, I was definitely one of these people who was like, this guy's so clearly guilty. But since then, like, just seeing the way cops and district attorneys are like, you just got to be like, well,
yeah,
could be, and plus it gets people upset. I feel like it gets the right kind of person upset, and so he's like, ooh, I don't know.
I watched an episode of Roseanne the other night that came out right when OJ was acquitted. And at the poker table was 2 straight white males, 2 black dudes, and 2 gay dudes. And were all arguing about who had a rougher time. Just classic TV.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, like whatever minority group they were a part of. They
right.
thought that.
And Dan
okay.
Connor, played by John Goodman, made the case that straight white males had it the roughest.
Dude, honestly, I think you got to consider it, right? Right, man. So it's so tough. Okay, very good. So we'll put OJ right over here on the maybe pile. Ryan, who do you think should go on the Pro Stars mountain?
Greg, this is a superhero team, essentially,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And as a villain, I think that we could just talk about this piece of shit with no superpowers, almost no athletic abilities, named Bobby fucking Riggs.
Okay.
Almost nobody has been more hateable than this fucking tennis-playing dirtbag who said, I could beat anybody, including Billie Jean King, who stepped up and I think, as a woman, kicked his ass up and down the court. Billie Jean King is a pro star.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, not Bobby Riggs.
Bobby Riggs can go fucking eat shit.
Billie Jean King. You know what? I'm going to put Billie Jean King straight on the mountain. I like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Ryan.
Yeah, he talked such a big game. He was. I've never understood if he was he kind of doing like the Andy Kaufman intergender
was it
wrestling
Andy Kaufman
thing?
or was it Fox News troll? Like, was he just trying to get?
Because she whipped his ass, and since then everyone's like, well, you know, he was an older guy. Well, but he's the one who set the whole thing in motion. Like,
why would she do that to such a nice gentleman?
Oh man, you know what I've always hated? The last shot of the match. After she beats him, he jumps over the net like, oh, look, I can just spring over the net. Dude, just, man, give her 1 second. Just give her one moment.
Do you know what I would have done? Faked a heart attack. Get that carted off the court.
Yeah, dude, I get a little sympathy. That's sweet, sweet sympathy. See, middle-aged white men had not developed that trick just yet. Of like, he should have been like, I'm the victim. No, oh, God. But she's going right on the mountain. Very good. Even though, Ryan, tennis, I think, is kind of a racket. Thank you, Taylor, for appreciating comedy. And in fact, Taylor, it is your turn. There's 2 spots left on the Pro Stars.
Okay. I'm gonna shoot for a right on the mountain one with this one, and I'm gonna go like maybe one of the best players of basketball of all time, Wilt Chamberlain.
Wilt Chamberlain,
1973. Where's Wilt at?
1973 Wilt Chamberlain, though?
Is he old?
He's pretty old in 73. I feel like...
Listen, he's still making the All-Star game in 73, which is what I checked.
Okay, he's still an All-Star. Also, he has some off-the-court stats that are pretty impressive.
Are you talking about puss?
I was alluding to his gentlemanly endeavors. Certainly, I was. Something about this is not reading 73 to me, so I'm just going to put Wilt off to the side here. 73 basketball.
Okay, great. I am looking it up, and that is the last year that he played professional basketball.
Yeah.
So.
This is like his...
Listen, I picked names that I recognized.
No,
I can
and
admit that.
Man, Wilt Chamberlain, great player. Great player. You picked a good one. It just might be a little bit past his prime. Okay, Ryan, it's back to you. Might be an opening here, brother.
No, this is it. I don't know if we've ever, in all of our years of doing Pro Stars, I don't know if we've ever had somebody of this person's ilk. And you guys might say nay, but no one is saying nay louder than him. It's Secretariat.
Yeah. Man.
And this is a cartoon, Greg, so I say fully talking horse.
Okay, talking horse. Is he Bojack style bipedal or is he horse style quadruped?
Well, I think based on the original having Bojack son, we should have Bojack here. So bipedal. But when it's time to when it's battle time, he gets on all fours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because this is interesting because I was wondering if it's like a Shadowfax thing, right? Shadowfax, famously from Lord of the Rings, the Lord of all horses. And Shadowfax was not going to let just anybody hop on up there, right? Gandalf is so well thought of that Gandalf's like, okay. And even that, I think, had to be a strained relationship at times because it is essentially a guy who thinks of himself as the king and you're riding around on his back and you're like, Shadowfax, go this way now. And you're like, damn, I'm the Lord of horses.
I'm the king. You know that, right?
Yeah, I'm the Lord of all the horses.
For listeners who are too young, Shadowfax is also how we would prank people in the 90s by sending them little
man,
faxes.
A blank fax?
Yeah.
Or just like a full page of ink. Oh, man, and it would make that screeching sound the whole time it prints.
That would have wasted so much ink of theirs.
That's a lot of
We
toner.
should have done that.
That's a lot of
let's
toner.
go back in time.
You're paying for that. You're paying for that through the nose, my friend.
All right, Taylor, you have one shot to redeem yourself.
Do not miss your chance.
Fuck.
Do not miss this one shot.
I'll be honest, I'm doing so poorly at this.
Yeah.
So
surprising everyone.
So I'm gonna go for we'll do baseball with this one. I've struck out so far. Let's see if the third pitch is a home run.
All right.
Now, I know for a fact that it is close to the end of this person's career as well, but I think he's still got some juice in him.
Okay.
Hank Aaron is still playing baseball at this point.
All right.
Fellas, he's still got, like, I think another, like, 4 or 5 years in the league at this point.
Don't think that's true. But he does set the home run record in this year.
He does in 73?
In 73.
Well, you know what? That's good enough for me. Plus, I didn't want to put OJ on the team. We're going to go
he's
with
he's got 3 more years in the league. I apologize.
I have to say, one thing I really like about Hank Aaron is he just consistently hit like 30 home runs
for 45 years.
For 45 years.
Just like he's just like consistency all the way through.
And also, this record feels really good. A lot of baseball records feel skeevy at this point. This one still feels good and real and genuine.
Can I start the premise of the show?
Sure. I love it.
Hank Aaron breaks the home run record. And because it's 1973, this guy gets on the field and rounds the bases with them in a very famous clip. And while Hank Aaron is rounding second, this fucking guy whispers into his ear and says, "Here's my master plan." And Hank thinks, "Man, I'm trying to worry about the home run record, but I got to get the pro stars together because this is the villain. This is where it all starts."
He's on the guy that's on the field.
Yeah.
I've always felt like I think there's 2 guys that run along with him. Man, I hate those guys. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is
main
his
character energy,
yes,
assholes.
This is his moment, and now I always got to look at you. They should digitally remove those guys. They should remove all of their fingers.
Those guys, at every single family gathering tell that story. And
Oh,
everyone's
God.
Like, that was you? You fucking suck, my man. And he's like, I think he was pretty cool. I'm part of history, and you're not, so...
If those are my uncles at every family gathering, I would freak out every time they told the story as if it were the first time. I would get on the table. I would scream.
Now, here's what I propose. I think in a dramatic moment, one of our heroes should not fall. That's too much. But, get injured. And then it's like, oh, man, we had Billie Jean King, but she hurt her arm with that last hit. Who's going to hit now? And they're like, okay, here comes Orlando Cepeda, the first ever person hired just to be a designated hitter, right? And he comes in and he's like, hitting is all I do, right? And we get to really cash in on the fact that 73 is when the American League introduced the designated hitter, ruining baseball until the National League also said, okay, we'll do the same thing.
Sorry, the old man Heinlein came tonight.
Man, I peek behind the curtain. I did used to be one of those people that was like, designated hitter has ruined baseball. 2 games into this season, it was like, man, it's so fun not having one of the 9 guys go up there who's like holding the bat the wrong way.
Yeah, it fucking sucks.
Can I very quickly? We're done with making picks, right?
We are.
I can't spoil anything.
No.
I just want to say that I did, as research for this, go and look up 1973 All-Star games. Can I read just some of the baseball names that we've got?
Dude, lay them on us.
We've really lost the art of the baseball name.
Did Mike Truck play?
Almost. We've got Rolly Fingers.
Yeah, Rolly Fingers.
We've got Sparky Lyle. we've got old Catfish Hunter.
Yeah.
we got Thurman Munson. We got Cookie Rojas in here. Are you kidding me?
These are
Buddy Bell. We got Bert Blyleven.
It's so funny because these are all just names that fans of baseball just know.
One of these dudes
they're not weird to us.
One of these dudes is just named Johnny Bench. Like he's just Johnny Bench. Like we don't name people like this anymore.
This is Albert Pujols theory.
Yeah.
In that it's just normal to you, but then you tell it to somebody who's never watched baseball, and they're like, "That's the funniest name I've ever heard."
You're saying that guy at bat, his name is Pujols.
His name is
Pujols.
I think part of the 70s was that everyone gets a nickname.
Yes.
And then also, the nickname sticks so hard, we're going to drop the quotations around the nickname. And so it just becomes their name.
We have really moved away from that, where your nickname completely replaces your name.
So Stinkfinger Johnson is just not a thing anymore.
That was a real big thing in baseball for like going back to the origin of baseball.
Ultimately, though, Fall of Saigon, are these three responsible? Did these three end the Vietnam War?
Absolutely. 1,000,000%.
We all know that Walter Cronkite ended the Vietnam War by being like sad about it on TV, and then America decided they didn't have the backbone to fight anymore. Ryan,
I just want an 8-episode animated series about BGK, Secretariat, and Hank Aaron pulling all the strings behind the Vietnam War, and it was them the entire time.
Oh, I don't know. We could try a troop surge. Oh, man, they're moving through Cambodia. I think we got to start bombing Cambodia. Oh, God, we're getting into a total quagmire here, man. We have a plan, right, guys? We have a plan to get out of this, right?
No cartoon will ever use the word quagmire more than this one we're about to produce. Except for Family Guy.
Family Guy uses it a lot.
That probably has the trophy.
That guy is named Quagmire, yeah. But no show will ever use Stewie as much as ours does. Crap! Same show and everything! Next segment! Religion, what with the Bible salesman angle and the opening on a funeral, and the radio, a device constantly gone back to, especially by Addie. These are like two forces that exist in the movie. Is there a connection being made here? What role do either of these things play in the universe of the movie?
I think that, like, arguably, those are in, like, the 30s. Like, the two main ways that, like, people are, like, joined together as, like, a unit. Because it's one with religion, like, especially in the 30s and even up until, like, I'd say, like, 2005. I think, like, that was, like, the main one of the main ways that people would, like, get together, and it's just expected, like, oh, Sunday, time for us to get on up to church and, like, see everyone in the town, like, see every person you've ever known in your entire life every week. And then the way to expand beyond that is, like, the radio. Like, Jack Benny's on. And this is how I get, like, my entertainment, because, like, what the fuck else am I going to do? Like, look at hay? Like, there's am I going to push hoop with stick? No, we didn't invent that till 1945 or whatever. Which, by the way, this is a quick sidebar. I met a woman the other day who was like, I remember when they invented hula hoops. And I was like, that can't fucking possibly be true. But she said it so confidently that I was like, maybe hula hoops were invented in 1950. I don't know.
They were, though, right? Isn't that what hula hoops are from?
Yeah, she
that
probably
can't be. They're just a ring. They're just a ring. I invented that like 3,000 years ago. Like, what are you talking about? Anyway,
have you ever seen the Hudsucker Proxy?
No.
You should check that out.
Is that something you just made that up?
It's all about hooping.
I have multiple times told Greg that there is one Coen Brothers movie that I have not seen, and it makes me upset, and he brings it up every episode of this show.
It's a good movie, and you should both check it out. There's a funny moment of crossover between religion and radio, and it kind of connects to what you said, Taylor. They're in one town. I think they're like somewhere in Minnesota, and he's like, so yeah, that was the latest song. The radio DJ like that. So that was the latest song. Hey, it's 10:30 on Sunday. Everybody, go get to church now. Just like everybody,
that's all
get
right.
out there.
Yeah, if you're hearing this, you're sinning. The devil is coming for you.
Who in this movie likes like religion? Like what angles on religion do we get?
The connection between radio and religion is not something that I thought about until, Greg, you asked that question. So
I can see on your face.
Really good job hosting, I would say. But religion to me is always a weird one because I never trust that, me thinking about that as a theme because of my crazy bias towards it. I think it's for rubes. In real life and in the movie, they're
definitely in the movie, right? Like,
let's prey on them. Like, we think that, like, if it was like, oh, your dead husband, your deceased husband bought you this giant box of candy, they'd be like, I don't fucking care.
Yes,
like, I'm in mourning. Get the hell out of here. But no, he bought you this like personalized, embossed Bible. Well, like, I need to have that, right? And I'll spend $423 on this fucking Bible. That's crazy. They probably already have 2-3 Bibles in there.
Oh yeah.
But also, like, in that time, Bibles were, like, super important. Like, I think it's important that he assumes it's a foregone conclusion that if someone has died, their widow is going to be religious. But also, like, Bibles were, like, an heirloom. And at that time, there's, like, a whole weird thing with, like, Protestants taking, like, a lot of pride in the fact that they read the Bible. Because there's, like, a whole thing with, like, oh, Catholics don't actually read the Bible. It's the clergy controls it all, or whatever. Like that like weird like Protestant, like anti-Catholic stance. So I think there's like part of that, which is like a Bible is the perfect thing to like make someone forced to buy, because it's like, fuck you, think I'm not gonna buy a Bible? I'm absolutely gonna buy a Bible.
So we have film bros now. There was Bible bros then. There was like Bible Boxed. There was a website where you could log how many different Bibles you've read or how many verses you've read back then. Just like how good you are at reading the Bible. And that's one of the ways that Abby is so good at, just better as a con man and a person than her dad, because she's like, this person's rich. I notice all of her things, her piano, her necklace, her chandelier. So let's charge $24. And then this woman has 8 kids. She's holding 8 kids right now.
They just keep like falling in the background. Like you just like, oh, there's another one back there.
One comes out of her body.
She births a child mid-scene without even acknowledging it.
And Addie says, well, actually, this Bible's free. And so like now she's not just, she's like a better person morally than Moses as well. And this person just needs the Bible because this is one person that they've talked to who actually doesn't own a Bible, you know?
Because I noticed the people that they rip off, they use religion as the way to rip them off, but then the other characters have some religion analog. And for Addie, I really feel like it's the radio. She's like addicted to the radio. She wants to listen to it constantly. It's appointment viewing. She has to show up before bed to listen to it. Like she needs to find a place in every town.
And by the way, she is the worst kind of person to watch a movie with, because they were listening to like Fibber McGee.
Yes.
And she was like, "Oh, watch, he's gonna say this." That's the worst person to watch a movie with.
That she is a 10-year-old, and a 10-year-old is the worst person to watch a movie with, because if they have seen it before or they think they can figure out what's going to happen, like you can say, "Oh, please don't tell me," and then you watch them battle with not telling you. All they want to do is like, I'm just going to tell you everything that happened.
Because they become co-screenwriter. Like they get half credit for like coming up with that joke.
I knew it before you did. And then for the dad, for Mose, his seems to be sex, right? And so all these are all these are shown to be different forms of opiates for
vice and like the drug. What is their drug of choice? What is their takeaway?
All right. Well, that was the religion and radio question. Thank you very much, everybody.
Zoidberg is big, huh?
That's another one of my special speed round remixes where we also get Zoidberg. Miss Trixie Delight keeps saying she has to winky tinky, but did anyone else get the sense that she just shits more than Mike?
Yes.
I cannot believe that
fat,
we have.
So I burp and fart.
I cannot believe that we haven't talked about Madeline Kahn until right now.
We didn't talk about Madeline Kahn. One question I meant to ask you about Madeline Kahn, I'll ask you now. It's a speed round question. What line was she too embarrassed to say, and Bogdanovich could only get her to say it one time?
I don't know.
At the end of the speech.
I know.
Go.
It's absolutely when she's like, let Miss Trixie sit up front with her big tits or whatever. Like, the funniest line of the whole fucking movie.
She was like, this is obscene. I don't want to say it. Please don't make me say it. And what's more, I'm too embarrassed to say it. And he was like, you have to just do it for me one time. And it does not settle into that speech. And you can just see on her face, she's mortified to have said it.
Her speech on the Mount where she's talking to Addie and like
that's where this is from. Yeah,
goes in trying to be like, hey, I'm gonna be like the cool girlfriend, and then in the midst of the speech has already thought of all of Addie's comebacks and is answering them in real time and getting angrier. This is like, that is a incredible monologue.
And then finally she's like,
that's me in therapy.
And then finally she's just like, I'm gonna be gone. Like, he's going to leave me. Can you just let that happen? And the answer is no. She has to drive her out. I think she is like, again, this is the 70s. She is constitutionally unable to not be the vehicle for that woman's destruction.
It's because when it comes to Trixie, Abby has flames every time she thinks of her.
Yeah. And I think that's because she's like, you think you can come here and replace my mom. And what's more, you think you can come here and replace me.
Right.
And we see a lot of that, like, I should have this role. And she literally, what she is saying to her with that big tits line is, let me sit in the front of the car. Let me sit in your place. I actually want to be where you are sitting. Miss Trixie Delight. Could I fix her? Could Greg fix her?
Yeah, I think so. I always like to give you the positive thinking about this.
Taylor, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I believe that you could.
I really feel like I could. I think what she needs is a lot of unconditional love and support. She's a beautiful woman. She's got a lot of talent. I think she's a little cruel to people, but I think my love would help her see her way past that. You know,
have her stop, doing indentured slavery. But number one,
yeah. And that's my next item I want to talk about in the speed round. Are we a little uncomfortable with her relationship with her employee who she doesn't pay, who happens to be black, who seems to sort of fulfill that clever servant role? What's this movie doing with that?
Not enough.
But I will say that if this movie was from the time it took place in, then she would be a much different character. And it would be like, no, yes. I love my mammy, and I think that she's great. And in this movie, that character's like, fuck this bitch, dude. She's a whore, and she'll go down on you for any amount of money.
And I mean,
her character and her performance did almost seem like it was, at least at the very beginning in that first scene where she's talking with Addie, it almost seemed like she was like a character from the early 90s. She was just like,
yeah,
man, I fucking hate this bitch. What are we let's get out of here.
What's her name?
She
Imogene?
seemed like she was hanging out at a skate
Yeah,
park.
Imogene.
Yeah, so Imogene with her Doc Martens and her choker, and she's like, man, Madeline Kahn sucks.
I do have to say, her performance is the difference between getting it and almost getting it. I feel like she is right on the doorstep of a brilliant performance. And unfortunately, what happens when you get so close but don't quite get all the way there is it almost underscores even more that you're not quite getting it, and especially when you are playing against Tatum O'Neal.
Oh, I totally disagree.
Yeah.
I think that this was another person running circles around Ryan O'Neal. This was I could not believe how great she was.
Ryan.
Do you think anyone ever watched Paper Moon on pay-per-view?
Yes.
Taylor, what's your answer?
I think no. Well, it depends on if you count streaming subscriptions as pay-per-view, because I think this bad boy is on. I think this bad boy is on Freevee or whatever now, so you don't have to pay for it.
Wait, was pay-per-view you would pay that $4 and then you would have 2 hours?
Pay-per-view. Here's my recollection of it. You would say you wanted to view it, you would pay for time of viewing it. So if you're on a streaming service, that to me is not pay-per-view, because you'd have to it would cost $2.99 and they'd send it right to your house, and then when you were done watching it, you were done.
Well, now if you rent a movie now, you rent it for 24 hours.
Yeah.
But back in the day when we was kids, would pay-per-view be literally it's just going to play? You can't pause or anything.
Yeah, I think it just starts and it's just going.
Yeah, it's so.
And it's you got to be ready.
That's so much pressure.
Yeah, it's too much pressure. Honestly, even renting a movie from Apple TV or whatever, and then getting that countdown, all right, you got 30 days to start it, and then you start it, and it's all right, you got 48 hours to finish it. I'm just shit, I hope nothing.
What we do to add excitement to my marriage is we will wait until there's 2 hours left in the rental,
Oh,
and then we'll start it. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll do that.
Take a walk on the wild side. Based on what we've heard, who is a better father of daughters, Ryan O'Neal or Ryan from Movie of the Year?
Ryan O'Neal.
No.
No, I think Ryan from Movie of the Year.
This is one of those times.
Greg, did you ask this question just to get me compliments?
This is just one of those times we have to say Ryan is a good dad, and not just because when you do things like research for Movie of the Year, you get to fall down the well of how bad people can be at being parents, but Ryan's actually a very good dad
This is one of those things, like, where they say if Trump had done nothing with his money, his dad's money, he would have more than he has now. If I had done nothing as a father, I would be better than Ryan O'Neal. If he had just literally never talked to his daughter, he would be better.
Ryan sent us a video of like them as Tatum O'Neal as an adult talking to her elderly father. Basically, their relationship's still completely fraught, and she's like, "I feel like I don't know you," and he's like, "Yeah, it's because I was never around."
What the fuck?
Are you arguing against her? What is this? She's like, "I think you have anger issues." He's like, "You're always saying I have anger issues."
He is, and like, he's not a victim. I'm not making excuses. He is broken. His head is cracked open.
Yeah. His career didn't really like persist past the 70s much, did it?
No, absolutely not. And I think that like a lot of it was that thing that we talked about with. Remember when we talked about Eyes Wide Shut and Tom Cruise being almost stunt casting?
Yes. Yeah.
And how Barry Lyndon Kubrick did the same thing. That was sort of it.
Yeah. Like, well, there's not that many movies about unlikable douchebags.
Right.
So you're gonna run out of parts to play. If the moon were made of ribs, would you eat it?
No, it's too much. Do I have to eat the whole thing?
No, it just says, would you eat it? So we can parse that.
I take a little. I take some nibbles.
Do you know what? If I buy one moon for one person, but I let the three of us eat it, do we get shit from the servers?
I think honestly the servers don't care.
They don't care.
But if
They're
a manager
teenagers,
sees,
right?
they're coming over. Or if the owner of the place sees, they're going to absolutely
Then yeah, we're
going to
do it. The three of us are going to house that.
When we come back, it's time for awards and recommendations. Awards. This movie got one Academy Award. It was for Tatum O'Neal. That was not super popular with everybody. Some people were upset about that for different reasons, but now it's going to win a whole bunch of awards, and we're going to start with pound for pound performance. Is there any reason at all to even do this? I'm not sure. Taylor, who do you think gave the best pound for pound performance?
I think if we're talking like size, it's obviously Tatum O'Neal. But if we're talking literal pounds, if we're talking screen time, I do think that there's an argument for Imogen here, because she really, I really enjoyed every moment that she was on screen. She gave Addie someone to bounce off of and like be a little mischievous stinker like on the side, but like I think every line that she delivered, I was like, great, excited to have you here. Did not overstay her welcome. I was like, this is a great performance.
All right, Ryan.
Greg, put my wiener in pajamas because I have PJ Johnson as Imogene.
Really? You guys both win with Imogene?
Yeah. I mean, you know my rule, but Tatum is obviously the star killer here. We talked about her. We spent 90 minutes talking about her. I think that PJ Johnson steals every scene she's in.
Well, I'm going to have to give that one to myself because that is ridiculous. All right. Coming up next is director's signature. Ryan, what is the director's signature?
This is also something that we talked about all night, but the Warner, this guy wanting so badly to do this one car ride where they have these lines, and he's like, but it has to be in this one shot, and we're going to reset the relationship, and we're going to end the first episode, maybe the second episode of the movie, and we're going to reset it. And like, we had 3 days of shooting to like rethink how we're doing this. We could have done something else, right? Like, it's not working, but he was just like, no, like all of this stuff from where the camera was, the deep focus, to also ego. This is all Peter Bogdanovich to me.
All right, Taylor, what do you think? Director's signature moment.
I don't want to keep doing this, so I think we should break this pattern eventually. But like the oneer is like the obvious answer. If it's not the oneer, I think just the decision to shoot it in black and white, like at least 20 years after we sort of stopped doing that. I think, but yeah, specifically like the concept of I've got a very specific aesthetic vision that is mostly used in older movies, and specifically older movies that I have an attachment to, that I am going to be absolutely committed to and will not budge on one bit.
Well, I'll give it to both of you. Although you kind of tried to hedge your bets there, Taylor, and I was almost like, I was like, well, if it weren't the one shot, it would be this. And if it weren't this, it might be this.
Do we think the constant conversation about Oneers, like the podcasting that we, like all the hard work that us podcasters have done, has sort of like deflated Oneers a little bit, where now like you do have to have a lot of reason to go out there and do it?
Well, like once you get like a movie like 1917, which is simulating a lengthy oneer, then I feel like, okay, now we've done an entire movie as one shot, and also we simulated it. And so then it's just like, what is the artistic merit? Is it just supposed to be a marathon? Is it just supposed to be a technical achievement? I think maybe we have reached kind of the end. I like the idea of one shot, like when you can capture two characters' chemistry over a long period of time. It feels very natural. But when you have to like tease that out of 2 days of people screaming at each other, then it feels like it's a trick. It's just an illusion at that point.
Right. Yeah. So like Children of Men are still my favorite, but like also if it's in a Linklater movie, then I'm down.
Yeah.
But other than that, let's take like a 10-year hiatus.
Yeah, the problem is as viewers now, we notice them, I think, in a way that we didn't used to. I think we used to feel them, and so they had an energy that we were in tune with. Now we recognize when they're happening, and it's like, no, wait, that wasn't a cut there. It just, the camera panned over a little bit, and then she went into the bathroom.
4 morons
and
in your theater standing up and being like, oh,
yeah,
water.
Yeah, and so it's like, it's no longer the like subtextual language, it's the supertextual language, because you're not even paying attention to the movie now. You're paying attention to just this shot, and like, oh man, yeah, now she's got to cry in the middle of this scene, and she just seemed happy a second ago. I keep going back to the Marriage Story oneer. But, like, yeah, it feels like maybe some of the magic has been pulled out of them. Alrighty, it's an old movie. It's probably full of cringe. Taylor, what was your cringiest moment?
Cringiest moment was... and what I have for this is, like, it's such a weird minor thing, but, like, just when he's like, yeah, I'll take this small child. And we'll just wander off. Like, it just, like, it made me like, I know it was the 30s, and they were like, yeah, kids can just kind of wander away, but like all of these people,
he's a friend of the family.
He's a friend of the family. He's going that way. Why don't you just take a little car journey and take this young girl here under your advisement. We've known you for all of 45 seconds. We exchanged 7 words, and we think we should entrust the care of this 9-year-old girl to you. Like, the movie itself is not doing a bad thing. Like, it's not poorly executing, but I was like, they shouldn't do that. I don't like this.
This is more about what I love about the religion of the movie, where they're like, we get to a very religious funeral. That's where the movie starts. And it's like, oh, this Christ-loving woman. I'm a priest. We love Christ. Everybody here loves Christ. This is a Christ-loving town. Hey, stranger, take this 10-year-old girl and get her the fuck away from here as fast as possible. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Right. We got nothing for this little girl. So this guy that rolled up at the very end of the funeral, we'll just send her off with him. Pretty good. Is that your same one, Ryan?
No, it's not, Greg, but I've got a weird one, so you could probably just give Taylor the point. It's the oneer.
Taylor. Made you cringe? Yeah, I mean, see our previous conversation, right?
It sucks to watch, and like it is meta or outer or intra or some other kind of textual that like maybe I don't have the words for, but like, and I didn't watch this with the cleanest of eyes. Like, I was not swept away during it because it was so hard because of everything I've heard about this scene, but like, this was so cringy just knowing that they had the same last name. Like, it was really, really cringy.
Yeah, I feel like the whole idea of casting his daughter is just a terrible, terrible idea. And I don't think just because it ruined her life, although that's a perfectly good reason, I think the way reality intrudes in on this movie, it's making the experience unclean. Like, there's the division between reality and the film. Blurring that line doesn't help me. I don't like that as a viewer. I want the film to be a complete fabrication. When you plug any reality to it by actually live firing at your actors, by having something scare them that they don't expect, by surprising them in a way that they don't anticipate, and then you see real human expressions based on those things, it always just takes me out of the movie.
There's this thing about the only true movie star, the only true movie that's left because of CGI is Tom Cruise, because he fully consents to almost die. What Greg just described is lack of consent.
Yeah.
In order to get those reactions, instead of full consent of flying on the outside of a plane or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like, especially in this, right around this period, the late 60s, and maybe it's probably just that I'm aware of it more, but we started entering into, when we started getting these auteurs, it was like, whatever they have to do to bring you something that's a movie is
cool?
permissible.
Yeah.
It's permissible to do whatever you want as long as what comes out the other end is art. And it's just like, no, motherfucker, that is not true.
And
you can't do whatever you want just because you're putting it on celluloid.
I think that's awesome when we're talking about like Dog Day and some of those protesters are real people. And so Sidney Lumet just like made a big deal. So
yeah.
like, I think that's rad. Not 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
There's a difference there.
How about Ryan? The moment where Ryan is being Ryan. And explain to our listeners what this means.
So at what point is it's really Moses, right? Like, what point is Ryan acting like Ryan? And I'm going to go from recent history. I don't need to go into details. But there's a point where Ryan comes out of Trixie's tent, and he's like, I'm going to get right back in line for that tent. And I think that's very Ryan.
She's like, you've been in and out of that tent 8 times. And he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to go 8 more.
And you know what? I get to, goddammit. That's my right. And based on recent history, that's the Ryan is Ryan part of the movie.
I love that old-timey carnivals used to also just have, like, strippers. They're like, and then we are going to have this one tent over here where there are naked ladies dancing.
And you know, Moses and everybody else who comes out of that tent is like faking, performatively, like, God damn it, what should I do next with my tickets? Oh, Trixie again, here we go.
I guess I'm holding them and it's right here. Yeah, there's quite a line. Taylor, what do you think is Ryan being Ryan?
That was definitely up there. But I do think that the moment where they're in the room and Addie is listening to the radio and he's like, do you want to go to bed or listen to anything else? It felt very Ryan to me, of like, is this what we're doing? It's bedtime now. It's bedtime now.
I'm going to give that one to Ryan. Taylor, this next one is called Tate Tate Tay Tay. Do you know what that means?
I do know what that means. I'm assuming that is the moment where young Tatum O'Neal was the most like myself in the film.
Yes.
And I do have an exact moment, and I'm upset to say that I knew it as soon as it happened. It's when she grabs all the stuff and goes and just does like a little pose in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
And is like stringing the pearls around and is like, what should my voguing pose be? And I was like, I do that every fucking day, man. It's every fucking morning I wake up and I do exactly that.
Put on half a bottle of toilet water.
I just absolutely douse myself.
Ryan, what do you think?
Greg, you already said it, but it's and again from recent history, but it is Taylor looking right at me and saying, do you need to get back in line for Trixie again?
Gotta go with Ryan there. All right. This next part is so important that I would never forget it.
Craig, don't you ever forget. This is the 9/11 of our show.
And I will not. Ryan, do you have any recommendations for people who loved or hated Paper Moon?
I do. If you loved or hated Paper Moon, boy, do I have a movie for you that I think that is so known as being unheralded that it's probably over-heralded at this point.
Starting to get a little heralded.
But I'm going to recommend it anyway. Because this whole movie to me is the father-daughter relationship. This movie that I'm about to bring up, a lot of people will talk about the chemistry between the two male stars, but to me, this is a father-daughter movie. And the relationship is between, I'm going to say this for the first time, I've never heard this name before, Anjali Rice and a little Ken I like to call Ryan Gosling.
Oh!
This movie's called The Nice Guys, and this is about a private detective who sucks at being a dad, and a daughter who is so much better than him at everything. Russell Crowe is also here, but let's talk about these two. She seems to have come to terms, and she's slightly older than Addie Taylor, right?
Yeah, I think she's more in like the like 12 to 13 range.
Okay, so she's late middle school, early high school. And she has come to terms with the fact that she has a shitty dad, and she is trying to like help him through life, help him through his job. And these two together are spectacular. This movie, everyone knows I'm a Shane Black guy.
Yes.
He wrote The Last Boy Scout. He has written many of my favorite movies. This is a movie that he wrote and directed, much like Iron Man 3. I can't say enough good things about this movie. If you want father-daughter con movies, this is not exactly the same, but it kind of is. Please, 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 everyone, watch The Nice Guys.
I'm going to. That's like the 18th really positive thing I've heard about this movie. I've never heard anybody talk about it without absolutely raving. And yeah, you're right.
I watched it very recently, and it's dynamite. It's so good. You got to check it out.
But I have heard 18 different things that all started with, this movie never gets any credit. But, so yeah, the unheralded has become...
It's like the canceled comedian in front of a crowd of 100,000 people. Just being like, oh, it sucks to be canceled.
Oh, man. Okay, I'm going to do the one joke. My pronouns are ha-ha. Woo, yeah. All right, joke number 2. My pronouns are woo-hoo. Yeah. All right, Taylor, what is your recommendation?
And Taylor, if you want to recommend Greg's last joke about pronouns, I will back you up.
I do want to recommend Greg's last joke about pronouns, actually. That's exactly what I want to recommend. My recommendation is, listen, it's not even Under the Wire. It's not unheralded. It's it's simply a movie that I'm sure everyone has seen, but the only thing that watching this movie made me think was, fuck, I wish I was watching a different Depression era movie about a con artist. You guys, you gotta watch Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's if you haven't seen this movie, it is about a charming con artist who is rolling around the Depression era South, encounters some Bible salesmen, gets into some scraps. It's based on the Odyssey, so if you like classics, it's right there. But gang, it's so good, and if you haven't watched it, which is I'm sure probably no one who's listening to this podcast, but fucking, it's so good. The Coen Brothers, honestly, the entire Coen Brothers filmography would fit with the sort of vibe that I appreciated from this movie, which is just some people being slick and sly. But God, it's so fucking good, you guys.
Is Oh Brother, was that made by the Hudsucker Proxy people?
That was.
Oh, okay. I think I've heard of them.
A lot of people say you have to see their entire catalog.
Their oeuvre?
Yeah, to even begin to understand them. A book / movie / remake of that movie that I could not stop thinking about this whole time is, what if you took Addie Prey and replaced her with Maddie Price? True Grit is one of the best books I have ever read in my entire life. It's so fun. It's centered around a little girl who has true grit and who basically just tells the world, you have to accommodate me. And she sort of finds her own Rooster Cogburn to look out for her. And she makes her own way in the world. And by the end of the movie, you realize she is the toughest cowboy of any of these people. And in the same way that Addie Prey is the natural con man, Maddie Price is the natural cowboy. And take your pick. I mean, I think the remake is better than the original movie, and I think the book is better than both. So go with
True Grit's
God.
So good.
When we come back, I'm going to tell you who won this episode, and we're going to talk about how far we think Paper Moon can rise. Now, Ryan, you said because Taylor was our very special guest that you would give him a head start.
Yes.
But then you didn't define what that was, and then you beat him 35-31. How much of a head start were you thinking about giving him?
3 points.
3 points. Okay, so Taylor, you got really close. You got 34 points. Ryan, unfortunately, did it with 35. Man, good thing, right?
Yeah.
How do we think this movie is going to do in the bracket? Is it going to be more of a Ryan or more of a Taylor Ryan, what do you think?
A winner or loser?
Yeah, is it going to be a winner or a loser?
That hurts. That's
the meanest thing That's the meanest thing I've said to or around Taylor.
All right. So while Taylor pulls out his notes to therapist journal, I will answer, and I will say, this podcast, this whole episode surprised me. Our focus on the outside of the screen as opposed to what was on the screen, and I don't know. I think that we all liked this movie and did not really show that for very much at all.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Taylor, do you agree with that? Because we did spend so much time talking about everything exterior to the film.
When I was watching this movie, I felt extremely warmly towards it, and it charmed me. And then every moment since then, every fact I have learned about the behind the scenes, every moment we've spent discussing it, and every new tidbit has made me like it less and less.
Yeah.
But that doesn't. Listen, if you go into this movie and you have the ability to turn your brain off from the facts that you know, it is an extremely warm and charming movie, and I had a blast watching it. Now I'm like, I don't know if I would watch it again soon, you know?
But if our moms texted us right now and Paper Moon's on HBO Max, or I'm sorry, Max. Should I watch it? I never watched it. Should I watch it? I would say yes. I would say hell yeah.
Yeah,
our moms will never know any of the stuff that we talked about tonight.
And if you didn't know, you would never think that was the behind-the-scenes story of it, right? And I mean, I hate, this sucks to say, but this is the story of Hollywood, right? Mm-hmm. That pain and blood and trauma make our beautiful, cute, wonderful little stories. And we just spent more time talking about this movie's particular way of doing that, but that's every movie, right? I mean, every movie is people suffering to give us something kind of pleasant, and then we're supposed to disconnect from that.
Yeah, I just think that maybe all children should be CGI and ChatGPT.
Dude,
from now on,
no more kids in entertainment.
No
right?
more animals, no more kids. I don't want anybody to non-consensually be destroyed for the rest of their life because they were in a movie. At a film festival coming up, I think, or it already happened. I don't remember. Ethan Hawke, my favorite father, outside of Atticus, is directing Maya Hawke in a movie, and I think that'll go okay. She's a lot older than Tatum was, but
still, you never overcome that power imbalance with your own
right. It's
parents.
the power thing.
Yeah, I hope I didn't steer us wrong to spending so much time, but I just I that's the experience for me is being so bewitched by what's on the screen, and then constantly, because the character Ryan O'Neal's character is kind of like him, just remembering oh God, there's all this other awful stuff. As a film, which is probably how these things should be judged, it's very, very effective though. It's beautifully made. It's warm, and you come out feeling better until you start pursuing the story.
And it was it one of the first 70s movies that we've had in this season of linear plot? Fuck that. We'll meander. We'll have episodes. That's what I really like about it. Almost Altman-esque.
Yeah, and it seemed to blossom with that instead of be constrained by it overly. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for being a guest on our show. Hope to see you again real soon. We have other great episodes coming up, so make sure you check those out. But until then, do me a favor, will you? Hey, keep watching them movies.